Oh my god, Mega Man's back! Mega Man 11, react to the trailer! Oh boy, what's going on with it? Oh my god, he's back! React! Yeah! Ugh, okay, he's really excited. Alright, so unless you guys have been living under a rock recently, it's been announced about a week ago that a new Mega Man is finally coming to current generation consoles, as well as a Mega Man X collection, which I'm personally very, very happy to hear. I think it's been way too long since we've seen a new Mega Man, ever since Keiji Inafune had his falling out with Capcom. There's been a couple of nostalgic 8-bit style entries in the last few years, but we really haven't heard a lot from Mega Man, so I'm very happy to hear that, and I cannot wait to play it. And so I thought I would use this opportunity to talk to you guys today about what makes Mega Man so special, why we love him so much, why he's endured since 1987. If you're counting, that is 30 years that he's been around. And what is it about Mega Man that people love so much? Why does he have such staying power? That's what I want to look at in today's video with you guys. So let's take a little journey together as we figure out the answers to all these questions and more, as well as dive into Mega Man's history a little more and do a little retrospective as we look at why we love Mega Man so much. The year 1987, and a little game called Mega Man hit the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, I don't think at the time anyone really realized what this unassuming title screen was going to mean. I mean, it really just looks so generic and stock. I mean, the box art alone makes you think that it's probably going to be one of the worst games you've ever played, and has been absolutely notorious over the years for being one of the worst, ugliest box art designs of all time. Ugh. I mean, just look at that face. Look at it. Does that look like something you're going to be able to recognize for the next 30 years in the world of video games? I would say probably not. But then you start playing the game, and all those doubts you had vanish. You start to see the game's tight controls, awesome gunplay, an extremely stiff challenge that's defined the Mega Man series for most of its iterations. It completely destroys any preconceived notions you had about it based on the generic title screen, the ugly box art, and the generic music at the boss select screen. And I think that's the first thing that we really need to focus on, is the simplicity of the game and how it was just you, your weapon, and your platforming skills to get through the game. And I think that's one of the main things that initially got people into this series so much to begin with. A lot of people looking at this game today might not think that it's really anything special, but you guys have to realize this was 1987. These kinds of things that you're seeing here just didn't exist at that time. You didn't have a game with such tight mechanics and gameplay where if you died, most of the time it was your fault. It wasn't the game's. Every new screen you got to was like a new challenge for you to overcome, almost like a game of chess where the game is daring you to keep fighting and moving on. And a game that allowed you to take other enemies' powers from them and use it against them. That was a really new concept at the time, where you had the ability to figure out which boss was weak to which power and destroy them more easily, but you were the one that had to figure that out, unless you had a Nintendo Power Guide, of course, because there was no internet at that time. You were the one that had to figure out how to defeat that boss, and that was a really fun challenge to figure out what the best strategies were to beat each one of these bosses. Couple that with the really great soundtracks for each boss stage, and the high challenge of the game made for a pretty notorious experience. Even to this day, it's known as one of the more challenging games on the NES. If you watched my Cuphead video earlier, I talked about that too, that challenging games really gives them that legendary status as long as it's a good game. If it's challenging just for the sake of being challenging and the game sucks, that's a different story. But the fact that this game was as good as it was for the time, and that it was as difficult as it was, really gave it that initial fan base that it needed to kick the series off. And while Mega Man 1 was a very challenging and groundbreaking game on its own, the true breakthrough didn't come until Mega Man 2. Mega Man 2, the game that I think most Mega Man fans know and love, and feel like it is pretty universally accepted as one of, if not the best, Mega Man games. Just the intro alone is just so awesome. It starts off giving you the story at the bottom of the screen, and once it gets finished, it zooms up to this. You know what? I'll just shut up. You guys just listen to it. God, it's sweet. Oh, doesn't that just get you pumped? Just ready to go? Yeah! Everything about Mega Man 2, huge improvement over its predecessor, from the graphics to the music to the bosses. I mean, the music alone has got to be one of the best video game soundtracks of all time. And Mega Man 2, I would say the challenge is a lot more forgiving. That was one of the most common complaints with Mega Man 1, is that the challenge felt imbalanced, if anything. Now, some people say 2 might be a little too easy, mainly because of one huge exploit in the game. Now, if you've never played Mega Man 2 before, and you want to pretty much turn cheat mode on, beat Metal Man, because you will get one of the most ridiculously overpowered weapons in the entire Mega Man universe. Come on, come on, come on, come on! Kill him, yeah! Alright, here we go. Here it is. Excellent. You're already dead. One of the things about Mega Man 2, and one of the reasons why it's such a revered game and what makes it so special, is the balance that it strikes between shooting, jumping, overall gameplay that really takes a lot of precision to master, but anyone can jump in, pick up and play it and have a good time. And that's one of the things that I've always really loved about this game, and what puts it head and shoulders above a lot of other platformers of the time and really define the genre. Not only that, the game increased the amount of bosses from 6 to 8, and it also allowed that same freedom that you had conquering the bosses in any order that you wanted to, but a lot of the challenge was in trying to figure out which bosses you were supposed to tackle in which order. And again, unless you had like a subscription to Nintendo Power or some other magazine that had those strategies, you were just left to figure it out on your own. And that was one of the really cool aspects of the game that a lot of people appreciated at that time. And so because of all those reasons, I feel like Mega Man 2 is the most important title in the series. Really built that foundational fan base that Mega Man is known for, which will lead us into the following entries, Mega Man 3 through 6. Now, don't get me wrong, I did enjoy the follow-up games in the series after Mega Man 2, but you can see in Mega Man 3 here, again, we're going back to the simplistic title screen. The music, while good, probably not quite as good in my opinion as Mega Man 2, but there is one thing that Mega Man 3 is known for, which is adding the ever-important slide move that would become known as a staple of the series moving forward, both in Mega Man and Mega Man X. In addition to the slide, also adding Proto Man in Mega Man 3, who would become a long-standing staple in the series as well. And of course, Mega Man 3 also added Rush, your dog companion, most notably the Rush Jet, which was an amazing addition, helped players get through a lot of annoying parts in the game. Jumping into Mega Man 4, they added the cool intro sequence right back into it again, and this is where the term Super Fighting Robot came from, I believe, for the cartoon series.
Super fighting robot, Mega Man. Super fighting robot, Mega Man. Super fighting robot, Mega Man.
Super Fighting Robot, Mega Man. Oh, sorry. Now the main thing that this game would be known for would be adding the charged Mega Buster shot, which again became a staple of the series. So this game, not really too dissimilar from the previous entries, but you did have that charge shot, so that added another dynamic, and they still did have the slide in the game as well. So that's one of the things that a lot of people always liked about Mega Man as well, is that the games always seemed like they would add little improvements and things to keep the gameplay kind of fresh up until this point in the series. And getting into Mega Man 5, you're adding other aspects such as collecting letters that would allow you to summon a companion known as Beat, a little bird that would help you attack enemies. Other than that, not really too much different about this one. And the final entry in the series, Mega Man 6, allowed the use of what were called rush adapters that gave Mega Man more unique powers to utilize in his arsenal, such as Power Mega Man you see here, giving him extra strong punching attacks that had decent range but not as much as his Mega Buster. And Jet Mega Man, which gave you the ability to fly through the use of a jetpack on your back rather than the Rust Jet. Now, keep in mind, by this point in the series, the Super Nintendo was actually already out and being developed for, so Mega Man 6 probably didn't do as well as it would have if that hadn't have occurred, but they were also working on the development of a new series, which would change the face of Mega Man forever. Oh hell yeah, now we're getting into the good stuff, baby. So I appreciate you guys sticking with me to this point. I feel like I do need to touch on Mega Man X, even though this is a more original Mega Man focused video just because we're talking about the sequel to it, Mega Man 11. But I do want to touch on this just because the Mega Man X collection is going to be coming out. That was announced as well, which I'm really excited about too. And we'll jump back to the original Mega Man games here in a minute. I just want to talk about what Mega Man X's contributions were to Mega Man's popularity and some of the things he's done to help increase Mega Man's overall audience over the years. Now, I'd say by this point in the series of Mega Man that most people were probably starting to get a little tired of the formula, even though they did try to add new things. People were kind of getting ready to move on to the new generation systems. The Sega Genesis had already been out for a while. People had seen all the cool graphics and things that were going on with that. So by the time we got to Mega Man 6, I think people's patience for the older style games kind of started to wane a little bit, and people wanted something different. And along came Mega Man X, and this game just completely blew people's expectations out of the water. I mean, it still kind of, it had the old school formula that everyone was familiar with, but it changed enough things that everything still felt fresh, new. There was a more mature storyline, updated graphics, and there was just a harder edge to the game that I think a lot of people growing up with Mega Man as kids appreciated a lot, because a lot of us by this time that originally played the series were teenagers, so for some, the original Mega Man may have felt a little too soft compared to what we got with this iteration of Mega Man. Now, if you guys haven't seen Ego Raptor's sequelitis video on Mega Man X, I highly recommend you go watch that one. He does a great job of breaking down what makes Mega Man so great. But I think one of the main points that he makes that I definitely agree with the most is how the game respects people's ability to understand how to play the game. And it doesn't hold your hand like a lot of the games that we play right now, and I think people would really appreciate a lot more in today's games. I think that's one of the reasons why, say, a game like Dark Souls is beloved by so many people, is because it doesn't hold your hand, it just throws you in. It kind of gives you little hints along the way, but by playing the game is how you really figure out the best ways to defeat the enemies, how to learn the controls, and just master every aspect of the game. But that isn't necessarily true with some of the newer X games. I know that there is a little bit more hand-holding in those, and that may be one of the reasons why the series has lost a little bit of clout with people, among other things. Nope. Yeah, no, I'm not touching that one. Just go away. Go away. Just some of the subtle things that Mega Man X does over its predecessors. Even the intro boss screens. Like, doesn't Chill Penguin just look like he wants to whoop your ass? And then you get into the actual boss fights, which have menacing music to start off with. The bosses have way more interesting and varied attacks. They don't just jump around the screen and throw their weapons at you. Haha, not today, fatty. The best part about it is once you do figure out a boss's weakness, It's way more pronounced in this game with most of these bosses because they actually display that you're hurting them much worse than they would be normally with your normal Mega Buster weapon. And it's really satisfying to just start whooping these guys' asses after they've spent so many times destroying you, and you're able to finally figure out their weakness, and they really can't do jack squat to you after that. And it's a great feeling to be able to whoop up on these guys after they give you so much trouble. I mean, look at this guy. He can't do anything to me.
Let's kick some ice.
Pathetic. And of course you can't talk about Mega Man X without bringing up Armored Armadillo stage and the rail car that you can take down the tracks and blow away every enemy in your path, shoot them as you're flying down the tracks. Great fun. Awesome. Probably one of my favorite things that happened when I was a kid when I played was when I shot Armored Armadillo with his weakness and his armor came flying off. It's just little cool touches like that and ones that I showed earlier that just add so much to this game and make it as awesome as I remember it going through it again. Additionally, you had all these different things in the X series that would go on to define it later on, such as upgrades for your character like the dash boots, which once again kind of are a play off the slide from Mega Man 3. You also get upgrades to your X Buster, to your armor, and that would go on to represent the X series as a whole in all of its future iterations. And you also had additions to your heart tank where you could increase your life. Those were hidden all around the area. And you also had E-tanks that you could use whenever you wanted to. Up to 4 E-tanks you could collect, which further added to the strategy of the game. So this was the game that started the X series and it just really completely revitalized the franchise all on its own. It got people into Mega Man again and spawned a whole new series on its own. I won't get into all the side games like the Game Boy games, the Mega Man Battle Network series, Mega Man Legends. All those games are important to the franchise, but I'm kind of focusing on just the core Mega Man games and what made them so special because I think those are the ones that built the fan base the most out of any of the Mega Man games and just really laid the foundation for the reason why I think they're trying to bring the Mega Man games back and trying to rejuvenate the franchise once again. Alright, so I hope you guys are still with me through all of this. We are getting around to Mega Man 7 now, which kind of has an interesting story all on its own, but just to kind of summarize where we're at right now on why people like Mega Man as much as they do, including myself. Once again, first, simplicity. It's just you, your reflexes, your gun, and your platforming skill. 2. The game is easy to pick up, but it's hard to master all of its intricacies and become a true Mega Man master. 3. The game has a sense of freedom and progression unlike any other of its time. You can conquer bosses, gain their weapons, and defeat them in any order of your choosing, gaining power and getting stronger the whole time. 4. Addition of new gameplay elements. While some players may think that the series has gotten a little stale over the last few entries, I personally didn't care when I was a kid. I ate that stuff up like candy. Every time a new game came out, they had just enough new elements added to the game that kept me playing through all these years. And number 5, finally, no hand-holding. I know this is one of the most important aspects of this franchise, especially in the early years, that a lot of people appreciate, that you can just jump right in. It doesn't tell you every little thing that you need to do. It's up to you to figure out how to play the game just based on the game mechanics and how the game challenges you in new ways. Alright guys, so let's jump into Mega Man 7 through 10, and then we're going to come back around full circle and talk about 11 and the future of the series along with the hopeful future of the X series. Mega Man 7 was in sort of a strange spot in the Mega Man series, the original ones anyway, in that it was released after Mega Man X, which kind of threw people for a loop. I mean, most people thought that Capcom was kind of moving on from Mega Man after the Nintendo, and Mega Man X was going to be their new representative of the franchise, which is probably one of the reasons why it kind of received such a lukewarm reception, but I'll get into some things about that. And so one of the few new things that this one did was to add a couple of new characters named Bass and Treble, the dog, which you see here, as sort of an antagonist to Mega Man, but it kind of seemed like they were unneeded, unnecessary, because Mega Man already had an antagonist in Proto Man earlier in the series, so I felt like it was sort of an unneeded addition. They also added the ability to purchase items in an in-game shop to make Mega Man stronger, but it almost seemed like a cheaper version of what Mega Man X had already done, and done better, in my opinion. And I would say that would be probably the biggest issue with Mega Man 7, is that it came at a time when people had already kind of moved on from him. They'd kind of gotten burned out on him. They didn't want to play Mega Man anymore in his current form. People were ready to move on to the bigger systems, the better graphics. And once they had seen Mega Man X and everything that game improved on, to go back to the old version of Mega Man, even with them trying to add a few new things, they really didn't add enough to make people want to stray away from X. It was essentially the same game that had come before. They just combined a lot of the elements from all the previous games into one game, and it just seemed like kind of a step back for the overall Mega Man series. And I would say that was mainly due to the limitations that you felt like you had playing as old school Mega Man when you were used to all the perks of playing as X. And that leads to another interesting time jump in the series. At a time when Mega Man X was flourishing, they decided to release another entry in the original Mega Man series, Mega Man 8. Mega Man 8, coming in at another strange time in the original series' life, came out in 1996, which was sometime between Mega Man X3 and X4 on the Super Nintendo. So the PlayStation 1 was just coming into its own at this point. They decided to release a original Mega Man first, and then Mega Man X4 would come shortly thereafter the next year. So again, Capcom kind of staggering the releases between the original Mega Man and Mega Man X, which was a little confusing, I'm sure, for the uninitiated that weren't used to these series. I'm sure a lot of parents going into stores had absolutely no idea what the difference was between the two. But I would have to say easily what this game is going to be known for, other than the fact that it was on PlayStation with the improved graphics, the orchestrated soundtrack and whatnot, all big improvements for the original series. But the voice acting, my god, the voice acting.
I'm almost finished. The battery will be charged in 10 minutes.
That's good. By the way, what do you make of these?
These? Seems to be energy resources. But I've never seen this type on Earth. I don't know where this energy came from, but you cannot let it fall into Dr. Wowie's hands. You must recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man.
But where is Dr. Wily?
That's a good question. We may be able to locate another energy emission from the radar room. When we find that meteor, we'll find Dr. Wowie.
So not only did they leave mistakes in the actual in-game dialogue, the voice acting is absolutely horrible. I'm talking Resident Evil 1 horrible. I mean, the guy that was doing Dr. Light probably had no idea what Mega Man even was or what he was doing voice acting for. I doubt he was even a professional voice actor. There's probably some guy they just snagged off the street, or one of the employees' dads or something like that they put into the game, and you can definitely tell it's absolutely atrocious, but to me it only adds to the game's charm. I personally enjoy Mega Man 8 and all of its weird little quirks that it has. It was definitely a product of its time, and I think it was overall better than Mega Man 7, especially with all the updates that they incorporated into it. Definitely a little bit more modernized, and it did have a leg up on X this time mainly due to the updated graphics and music. So even though the gameplay wasn't a whole lot different than its previous iterations, the fact that it was the first PlayStation Mega Man game sort of gave it a leg up, at least until Mega Man X4 came out, and I think that that one, again, just trounced Mega Man 8, and it was definitely the better game, just as Mega Man X was better than Mega Man 7 on the Super Nintendo. But yeah, I think this game alone introduced Mega Man to a whole new generation of fans, and because you have to keep in mind this was about 10 years, 9 to 10 years after the original Mega Man came out on Nintendo, so a lot of the kids that played, they grew up and started playing this, but also a whole new generation of kids came in. PlayStation 1, I know, was a lot of the millennial generation's first system, so that was adding to the original Mega Man fan base, this whole new generation of fans, because the game did maintain a lot of the things that people fell in love with the original Mega Man Series 4, and I think a lot of the younger people coming into the franchise didn't really know Mega Man before. They saw a lot of these things and were attracted to the franchise just as a lot of us were when we were younger too. Interesting side note, I thought it was a little strange that after the release of Mega Man 8, Capcom actually released Mega Man and Bass for the Super Nintendo in 1998 in Japan, and later released on the Game Boy Advance worldwide in 2002 to 2003, well after the release of the one on PlayStation and some of the Mega Man X games on PlayStation. So I thought that was just kind of an interesting anecdote that I would share with you guys that don't know. I've never personally played the game, but I just thought that was an interesting fact that they decided to release that at such an odd time in the life of the Super Nintendo. I think Mega Man 9 and 10 really came at a time where people were ready for a new Mega Man. This game came out in 2008, Mega Man 9 you see here. One of the more notable things about this one is that at the time it came out, it didn't have a physical release, and you also had the ability to play Proto Man as through DLC, and the first female boss was also incorporated into this game, which I thought was interesting too, because it's the only female robot master that's ever been in a Mega Man game. Another aspect of Mega Man 9 that was interesting, I thought, as well, is that they removed the slide and the charge shot that they added in 3 and 4. My guess is, and a lot of people have said that I've read, that it was to kind of capture the magic of Mega Man 2, or try to all over again, by just giving him his absolute basic abilities. To me, I didn't really like that. I thought it kind of limited your options a little bit compared to some of the older games. I started to get used to using them so much in Mega Man, and especially the X series too. So to remove them at this point, while I appreciate what they were trying to do, I didn't really like it personally. I wish they would have left them in. Finally, guys, the last stop on our journey, Mega Man 10. This one coming out in 2010, just a couple years after Mega Man 9. They did have a lot of success with Mega Man 9, and it was a good game, and I liked it a lot too. I'd say it was one of the stronger entries in the franchise for sure. A lot of people felt as if Mega Man 10 wasn't quite as strong of an entry as Mega Man 9 was. But by this time you could tell that the developers were definitely running out of ideas for some of these robot masters. And in the last couple of games you had the likes of Solar Man, Concrete Man, Burst Man, Sheep Man, Nitro Man. I was starting to wonder if these guys were high as a kite when they were coming up with some of these names. Again, this entry not having the slide and the charge shot. They do have Proto Man playable in this game again, as well as Bass. They all have kind of their own different abilities, and I'm not sure if it was a specific design decision to not give Mega Man his traditional moves, or if they just did it to give Proto Man more moves and Bass different types of things that he can do in the game, aim in different directions, so on and so forth. But again, I would say that Mega Man 10, not quite as strong of an entry as some of the previous games, especially Mega Man 9 that had been released a couple of years earlier. Alright guys, we have made it. Mega Man 1 through 10. We've talked about them, we've went over the history of some stuff with Mega Man. Talked about earlier on in the video why people like Mega Man so much. And we're finally going to come around full circle and talk about Mega Man 11 and the future of the franchise. So let's do it. 30 years of Mega Man. That is an amazing achievement by Capcom. Any video game franchise that can be around that long, I would say deserves respect. Even if you don't enjoy Mega Man and what it represents, I still think it's really impressive that they were able to keep the series going for this long. But what does it mean, Mega Man 11? This is the first new entry in the series in very many years. It's been about, well, it'll be about 8 years by the time it comes out. So what does it mean for the franchise? Should we be excited for this one? Or does it just seem like a cheap cash-in? You guys may not like my answer to that, but I would say at this time, I don't know. It's really hard to say. I mean, just judging by the trailer, to me it looks pretty cool. I know some people have kind of complained about his running animation. I personally don't have a problem with it because he had kind of a weird running animation in the original games, and I don't know if that's what they're trying to stick to. I do appreciate the fact that they are trying to go to a more modern style. I think we've gotten already a good taste of what Mega Man has to offer in the older 8-bit style. They gave us a couple of those, so the fact that they're going to a newer style is something that I've been waiting for a long time, so I'm glad they're going ahead and trying it with this new game. Additionally, I feel like similar to a situation that Mega Man 9 had, that enough time has passed between the last couple of games that people are ready for another Mega Man. As I talked about earlier, the fallout with Keiji Inafune, it really stunted Mega Man, I think, as far as new games coming out. I mean, we had tons of Mega Man games coming out all the time, and it just came to an abrupt end other than the last couple that we've had over the last few years. One of the most notorious things happening over the last couple of years, Mega Man Legends 3 getting outright canceled because of supposed lack of fan interest, which a lot of people took offense to, including myself, because I had tons of interest in that game. I loved Legends 1 and 2. But the fact that there's going to be 7 or 8 years that has passed between this Mega Man game and Mega Man 10, I think people will feel like it's still fresh. Again, it'll appeal to a whole new generation of gamers, similar to the way that Mega Man 8 did, like I talked about before. So that's going to be pretty cool, and I hope that this game helps build a further fan base above and beyond what he already has now. Finally, I think one of the things that they're going to be doing with Mega Man 11, why it's coming out with the timing that it has with the announcement of Mega Man X Collection. Well, it's honestly hard to say if it's going to be a collection or the games are going to be released separately, but to me it would be pretty ridiculous not to just release it as a whole collection, similar to what they're going to be doing with the Mega Man Legacy Collection that contains all the original Mega Man games here coming up soon for the current gen systems. Is that they're just trying to test to see whether people still like Mega Man. They want to see if people still enjoy the gameplay of Mega Man, and if this game sells well, and the Mega Man X games that get released and the Mega Man Legacy Collection sells well too, there is a very good chance that we will be getting sequels. Now don't get me wrong, if the game sucks, definitely don't support that, because we don't want to support bad games, but if it does deserve your attention, if the X series deserves your attention, definitely support it, because I think that there will be, for sure, at least a 90-95% chance that there will be more Mega Man games on the way in this series, in the X series, if we do show it the proper support, and it deserves that support. I'm just really hoping that if they do decide to do a sequel to the Mega Man X series, that it goes back to its 2D roots, because I think that the games were far superior. X4, 5, and 6, especially X4 when they were 2D. I feel like the series kind of jumped the shark when it came to X7, but hopefully they go back to those 2D roots and people will support that as well. Alright guys, well that is it for me. This is Arc Flash of Arc Flash Gaming. I'm really glad you guys stuck around for the whole video. Those of you that did stick around, even if you couldn't make it through the whole thing, I appreciate you checking it out. And yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. What's your favorite Mega Man game? What's your least favorite? Are you excited about an X collection or just X games being released? Are you excited about the Mega Man Legacy collection? Could you not care less about any of those games? Alright guys, well don't forget to subscribe to my content and like the video if you enjoy it. It really keeps me going with your support. I appreciate it so much, and it helps keep me making these videos for you guys. So I hope you guys have a good one. Take care, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you very much. Super Fighting Robot Megaman. Super Fighting Robot, sing with me now. Megaman. Super Fighting Robot. This theme kicks ass.